Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into something a bit philosophical, but honestly really relevant. Jean-Paul Sartre's idea of bad faith, or mauvaise foi.
Right. It sounds complex, but it
Yep.
boils down to this idea of lying to ourselves.
Exactly. Not just being mistaken, but actively deceiving ourselves to kind of dodge our own freedom and the responsibility that comes with it.
Yeah, and this came from you, the listener, so we thought, let's really unpack this, see what it means for, self-awareness today.
Okay, so where do we start? Sartre's big idea seems to be this radical freedom thing.
That's the core, yeah. His famous line, existence precedes essence. It basically means you're not born with a fixed nature or purpose.
So no blueprint.
Nope. You exist first, then you define yourself through your actions, your choices, and the implication is massive.
Which is?
A complete responsibility. You are who you choose to be moment by moment. And Sartre thought that level of freedom is, well, terrifying for most people.
Terrifying freedom. Okay. But the lying to ourselves part, how does that actually work? How can you be the deceiver and the deceived? It feels like a contradiction.
Well, that's the paradox Sartre points out. Bad faith isn't like unconscious repression in Freud's sense.
Yeesh.
It's more conscious than that.
Conscious, so you know you're doing it.
On some level, yes, it's an act. You're deliberately ignoring your freedom, pretending you don't have choices when you really do. It's like you're hiding your own possibilities from yourself.
So you're essentially acting out a role to avoid the truth.
Exactly. Acting as if. You pretend you are just the role, the dutiful employee, the helpless partner, whatever it is, as if that role defines your entire being.
So you can say, oh, I can't help it. This is just who I am.
Precisely. It's a performance to deny the freedom you have outside that role.
Sartre had some classic examples, didn't he? The waiter comes to mind.
Yes, the waiter. He describes a waiter who's too much a lighter. His movements are a little too precise, a little too theatrical.
Like a caricature.
Kind of. Sartre says he's play-acting the role, making himself only a waiter in that moment to escape the fact that he is a free being who chooses to wait tables, but could choose otherwise. He's reducing himself to his function.
Got it. And what about the woman on the date? That one was quite subtle.
Right. The scenario is a man takes her hand. She doesn't pull away, but she doesn't really respond either. She leaves her hand there almost passively, like it's just an object.
And Sartre's interpretation is?
She's delaying the decision.
Yeah.
By treating her hand, her body, as a thing separate from her consciousness, her will, she avoids confronting her own feelings or making a choice about the advance. She's avoiding the responsibility of her own desire or lack of it.
Okay, I see the pattern. You're trying to escape something. What's the root cause? Why do we do this?
Anguish. Existential anguish. It's the deep unease, the dizziness that comes from staring radical freedom in the face. The knowledge that you are the author of your life with no script and no excuses.
That sounds heavy.
It is. So bad faith is a way to flee that feeling. You tell yourself, I had no choice, or it's just my personality, or that's just how things are. Anything to create necessity where there's actually freedom.
So if bad faith is running away, what's the alternative? Running towards the freedom.
That's what Sartre called authenticity. It's about acknowledging that freedom, owning your choices, and taking responsibility for how you respond to your circumstances.
So it's not about controlling everything that happens.
No, not at all. You can't control the world, but you can own your interpretation and your response. That's authenticity, facing the anguish and choosing anyway.
Okay, let's make this concrete. Any modern-day examples spring to mind?
Sure. Think about someone maybe in a job they genuinely hate,
Yeah.
but they say, well, it pays the bills, or this is just what people with my background do.
They're locking themselves into the role of person who does this job.
Right. They might be using that role to avoid the scary freedom of actually trying to change careers or admitting their unhappiness and taking action. It feels safer to be defined by the role.
Or maybe someone in a relationship that's clearly not working.
Yeah, and they say, I can't leave, I'm not strong enough, or what would people think? That could be bad faith, framing it as impossibility rather than a difficult but possible choice, denying their own agency.
So bad faith is really this kind of deliberate self-trickery. We build these little prisons of roles and excuses to avoid the burden and maybe the scariness of being totally free.
That sums it up pretty well. It's an escape from the weight of choice.
Okay, so for you listening, maybe the takeaway here is to reflect a bit. Where in your own life might you be acting as if?
Yeah, are you adopting a fixed story about yourself? I'm just not the kind of person who that might be closing off possibilities.
Could acknowledging that inherent freedom, even if it feels a bit unsettling at first, actually lead to living more, well, authentically?
It's definitely something to consider. Those little aha moments when you recognize you do have a choice, even a small one, can be really powerful. Embracing freedom, not running from it, that's where authentic living starts.